Hey guys, it's Julie Malillo. I'm a life coach here in Manhattan. My website is yourdreamslifecoach.com. I want to talk today about some reasons that you might not be attracting love and how to approach that from every angle so that you can get faster results. So we're going to talk about what can you do on a logical side of things, an emotional side of things, and then we'll talk a little bit about sort of your gut level or energy, universe, law of attraction wise, what might be going on. Okay, so if you've been running into the same sort of problem for a while, like let's say you feel like you're doing everything and you just aren't meeting anybody, these are a few of the things that could be going on. And of course, there could be a lot more things that are going on. These are just a few things. The first thing could be that you might have some fears about love. You might have had some really bad experiences in the past. You might have even seen maybe people in your family that had relationships that you would not want a marriage or long-term relationship like that. So the whole topic might just kind of feel a bit icky to you on an emotional level. Whereas on a logical level, you might think, yeah, that would be great. I want to find my soulmate. Why not? But on an emotional level, you might have that stuff going on. And I would say that is a therapy issue if you have like stuff from your family that is blocking you. That's, from your childhood. Childhood stuff is always a therapy thing. So you can deal with it that way. You can read books about it. But if that's you and you really feel like you have fears about committing to somebody, that might be a block. And interestingly, when you have that stuff going on, even if you're like doing everything right, it might not be working because you are sort of putting the brakes on. Sometimes you don't even know you're putting the brakes on, but when you like look at a situation objectively, you might see something that you did to sort of send a signal to someone like, yeah, no, not really interested, that kind of thing. Like for example, years ago, I had a client who called herself a conversation ender in that she would meet someone, they'd be excited to talk to her, and she would find a way to make radio silence, like she would create awkward silences and she knew she was doing it and it turned out it was like a therapy issue. So I told her, hey, go to therapy, coaching's not going to work. But that's what would happen. She'd be in this conversation, a guy would be interested, and then she would say something or just go blank until the conclusion was always this weird sort of thing. And then, of course, the guy would walk away or, take that as a rejection and it just wouldn't go anywhere. Fears. Look, if you have therapy type fears, address that. I can't help you with that, but a therapist could. The next thing is there something else you have to deal with first? So maybe you don't have huge therapy level fears, but there might be something that's really important in your life right now that you have to take care of first before you really feel comfortable being in a relationship. Now, I personally do believe that you can be in a relationship that's healthy if both people are healthy, kind of regardless of what's going on. You can make that work. But if you're not in a healthy place, that's probably not going to work. So I'm not saying it's impossible to be in a relationship if everything isn't perfect in your life. I mean, you definitely can, and relationships can help us through a lot of things. But if you personally feel like there's just something you have to do first on your own, then you need to do that. And that's not a bad thing. Like for some people, it's maybe you need to feel a little bit more stable financially, or maybe your living situation's kind of up in the air and like you have a roommate and they're moving out and you don't know where you're going to move and you just feel like things are chaotic. You might want to just put all of your energy into dealing with that thing first. A lot of people have like financial goals where they feel like if I can't quite stand on my own 2 feet yet, I don't feel comfortable being part of a partnership yet. And that can be for a couple of reasons. Number one, that person might feel like they don't have enough to give. The other thing could be that they're worried even about being dependent on someone if you're not really strong in your financial situation. So that's just a couple things that could be going on. You might have other stuff you might want to move and you don't really want to get involved because you're going to be moving to Minnesota in a month or in 6 months. So it's kind of like, why bother? So just be aware, when you're aware of what you're doing, it's a little easier to navigate because sometimes people won't totally be aware of what's going on and then they'll kick themselves like, oh, I should be trying harder to date, but they really don't want to. They want to focus on this other goal, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can choose what you want to focus on. Okay, another really common one is, are you trying to stay with an ex? And it's not always a conscious thing, but if you're sort of in the back of your mind, like hoping that this ex might come back or you might be able to win this ex over one day, then you might be very closed off to anybody else. And you might even be putting stuff out on your social media with fears that, like, oh no, my ex might see this and they might not come back if I post this or if I post that. So I'm going to really, like, it's almost like you're marketing everything to your ex instead of marketing everything towards future partners, okay? Um, so that's a popular one where, and both guys and girls do this, where, they, uh, how do I put this in words? Like, they might not put stuff out on their social media that they would if they were 100% single, both guys and girls on their social media. There's a certain vibe, like when someone's clearly single, their profile says relationship status single, and they might have captions like single, ready to mingle, and they're out with their friends and they have really attractive photos, and that sort of a vibe is what you see on people's profiles that are really like wanting to meet someone. When someone really doesn't want to meet someone, they might just have their relationship status hidden. They might have a lot of photos with their ex all over the profile. They might not post about themselves. They might just have like inanimate objects, but no actual like selfies or photos with their friends or anything. So those are some things to think about. And that's, of course, that could be a coaching issue or a therapy issue, depending on how deep that goes as far as being stuck on this ex. And you might need to figure that out and see, do you want to try to get them back, or is it really done and just emotionally you're hanging on and building a life around what was? So that's one thing that people do when they're, they don't really want to move forward, but they wonder, like, what is amiss? Another common thing is simply energy level and your work schedule, because a lot of people are just exhausted, tired, health issues, and if you have that kind of stuff going on, you simply might not have the energy to even go out and meet people or to go on dates. And this is a really common one these days. I think we have something like almost 50% of people are chronically ill these days. So yeah, and as a person who has had chronic illness and still dealing with some of it from a moldy apartment I was living in for 7 years, which is other videos on that, I definitely can tell you, when you don't have any energy, it's like the last thing you want to do to try to put energy into something. And the same thing goes if you are healthy, but your work schedule is just absolutely crazy and you don't have any time to date people. So those can present an obstacle that you need to find a way around that. And the way around that one is find things that don't take a ton of time but can still open you up to the possibility. So, for example, you can ask friends and family, hey, do you know anyone who lives in my area that's single that you think is a cool person? Like, you think maybe you could put me in touch with somebody? Or you can even find some things online. You can find some interest groups or different groups where you can have conversations with people. Like, there's tons of Facebook groups. Lots of people actually meet in Facebook groups. It might just be like a hobby or an interest or a political affiliation or whatever. And then you start chatting with people on there and you become friends with them, and who knows, there are lots of people that meet that way. So there's tons of ways to do that if you only do have a few minutes. I'll have an exercise actually for you at the end, a more sort of spiritual thing that you can do if you find yourself with no time. Okay, what else? Sometimes simply not knowing what you want. A lot of people these days just don't know what they want. They're like, do I want a relationship? Do I just want more friends? Do I want to hook up? Like, I don't know. People just don't know. And when you don't know what you want, sometimes you just kind of fall into something just because it's there, or you don't find anything because you're not really looking and you're not really sure what you're doing. So it helps to get clear on, at least right now at this moment, what do you want? And it doesn't have to be like what you want forever. It might change in a week or in a year, but right at this moment, you have to really get clear with yourself. There are so many profiles that say, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know how this works. I don't know what I'm looking for. And it's like, you know what? What are you doing? You have to spend some time and figure that out, because if you don't know what you're looking for, like, you don't have an intention, right? You don't have a goal. You're just kind of there. So I'm not saying good things couldn't happen. They can. Good things can always happen, but it's easier to have good things happen when you actually know what you want, at least at this moment. And you can have a long-term thing you want and then something you want right now. That's okay too, but get clear on it. Get clear on what you want. Okay, so those are the main things that I see, the main categories that will block you and stand in your way. So let me tell you a couple of ways that this might happen. Like, if you see yourself doing these things, this is a sign that maybe you have one of these things going on for you. If you do something that like logically sounds like a good way to meet people, but then you sort of sabotage it, sort of like that girl I was talking about before who was the conversation ender. Like, she would go on the date or she would meet somebody and then it would just be awkward silence until the other person pretty much left. And this is something that avoidant attachment styles also do sometimes, or dismissive attachment styles. I have another video on the 4 attachment styles that you can watch if you're not sure which one you are, if you're an anxious, a secure, an avoidant, or a dismissive. So that's one thing you can do. A lot of the time I will see people that will, for example, go out with their friends to a bar to meet people, whether it's guys or girls, and then they end up sitting in the back corner in a booth facing the wall in a way that it's physically impossible that you're going to talk to anybody. And if that's the case, like, you really just should hang out with your friends at home, and then you don't even have to pay for the bar because you're just guaranteed not to meet anyone that way, which is fine if you're just there to talk to your friends, but you don't even need to go out if that's the case. Save some money. Cook at home. Drink at home. Think of the money you can save drinking at home. My gosh. Okay, so that's one thing. And guys will do this and they'll say, oh, let's go meet some girls. I'm over my ex now. And then they'll go out and like watch sports at a dive bar that has no women in it. And they're just like sitting in the back corner, just like eating wings the whole, like, you're not going to meet someone like that. Or girls will say, let's go meet some guys and let's go to this like really nice martini bar, which is a total date place. No single men are even there. It's all like women with their friends or people on dates. Because, girls like these like nice, pretty places, but a lot of the time there's no single guys in those bars. There's exceptions, of course, but you know what I mean. Like, go someplace that there will be lots of people, places that it's easier to meet people and talk to people. So if you have that stuff going on, or if you also just find yourself thinking in negative thought loops, like every time you see a couple, you think about your ex, or you think, oh yeah, you're happy now, wait till that person cheats on you, or oh yeah, I bet she just wants all of his money. Or, if you find yourself thinking these like really negative thoughts when you see couples, that's a big red flag to yourself. It's like a red flag about yourself that, like, by red flag, I mean stop and listen. There's something going on with you that's preventing you from getting that success. And the cool thing is, you can change those thoughts. So I recommend get a journal specifically for your goals as far as dating, love, marriage, all that stuff, and have a dedicated journal that you can write down your negative thought loops in. And the way that works, first you're going to write your negative thought that you've noticed. So congrats. If you've already thought of some, good job, because that alone will help change your pattern, just identifying it. So, you're seeing these couples and you might think like, you might feel jealous, you might feel annoyed, you might feel like, ugh, you might feel like, oh, that reminds me of my ex, I hate my ex. Whatever it is, write that down if it's a negative thought or feeling. And then I want you to challenge that, and I want you to start looking for examples that prove you wrong. So if you think to yourself, oh, yeah, well, it's a matter of time, they're just going to cheat on each other, then I want you to find couples that have never cheated and look for examples of that. I mean, Google it if nothing else, or ask around. Say, hey, you know anybody who's never cheated, who's been faithful their whole life, or do you know anyone who's not a cheater? And then fill your mind with those stories, and you'll see you can find evidence of anything out there in the world. So you want to find evidence for the goals that you want to attain. You know, yes, there are gardens that didn't grow, okay? But why do you want to Google that? Why do you want to think about failed dying plants? Don't you want to Google how to make your garden grow successfully and think about successful gardens instead, right? So that's a kind of like mind shift that you want to do. Change your negative limited thoughts to positive thoughts, and keep a journal so that you can see your progress. It's cool to see, like, you might start at one place and then like, okay, let's say that you date someone who's afraid of commitment, and then you start thinking, oh, I bet that person isn't really fully committing to them. Oh, I bet that person isn't really, well, I bet this. And then you write it down and you start challenging yourself to see people who have fully committed. And then you'll start looking for that and then finding examples of that. The next thing you know, you're like, oh, wow, there actually are people that commit, that are happy committing and actually want to do that. That will shift your mind a bit. So look for examples of what you want to happen, and focus on those. Don't focus on the garden that all the flowers died. Focus on the garden that's, beautiful and everything is blooming and flourishing and it's a well-maintained garden. And start thinking about that garden and how you make that garden happen. And just forget thinking about all the dead flowers. That's not you. That's not meant for you. Um Okay, another one that I just think is cute is you can bring a rose quartz into your life. Rose quartz is a crystal. It's a very pretty crystal. And this is a crystal that has an energy that's just very like soft and warm, fuzzy kind of energy. You can almost probably see the energy through the video. And it's just like a love type crystal. And you can actually like put this under your pillow. You can keep it in your pocket. It's really nice. What I like about this crystal is when you put it in your hand and it heats up, it gets super warm. And I don't know, it's just cute. So you can have, I mean, you don't have to do this, but I like stuff like this. I'm very visual, so visual stuff is nice. Um, okay, negative thoughts, fears. And then again, is there something that you have to deal with first? And this is where we get into the logical action items. Write it down. Write down the goal that you feel you have to attain first. Write down all your steps for that and make sure you're taking action so that you feel that forward movement. You don't feel stuck and depressed. You feel like, okay, I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer to what I want. And also challenge if you 100% have to do that thing before you attract your relationship. Is it linked to a fear you have and that's just an excuse you're using? Or is that really what you feel? Do you really feel it would be better to move first or deal with something in your life first and get that taken care of? If that's the case, do it. But if you're using that as a crutch because you're afraid, then address that. And again, you have therapy issues and then you have coaching issues that are issues in the present moment. They're not childhood issues, they're not abuse issues. That's all therapy stuff. Coaching issues are the challenges you're having in this present moment as we look towards your future goals. That's another thing that you can do. And I would say a big part of all of this is simply openness and how closed off you are. Because if you are open, that makes a huge, huge difference. It's so weird, but the law of attraction, it really does work because everything is made of energy. So if you are thinking really closed off stuff like I've been hurt before, or oh, I hope my ex comes back, so I want to sort of block these people out, or whatever it is that's making you feel closed off like that, it's amazing how across the board it can just shut things down and you'll stop getting people coming up wanting to talk to you in public. Even if you might look so cute, you know, if you're a guy, maybe you look really handsome, or if you're a girl, you look gorgeous. And it's not that. It's just that you go out and like no one is coming over because they can sort of feel on that energy level that you're just, no, no, just leave me alone, people. I don't want this, right? Whereas if you shift that energy a little bit to where you simply feel open, and that's a cool thing that you can work on even if you're busy, even if you're sick, even if your work schedule is crazy, you can work to shift that openness. The way you do that is you just say this to yourself. Even if you don't have all this figured out, you don't have everything in place, can you simply try to be open to where if the right person came along, maybe you don't necessarily do anything, but you feel open to it. You feel receptive. You feel like, okay, I'll let this in. I'll take a look at this. I'm not going to just put up a wall. And it's amazing how just that one shift, which is something you could do it right now. Just do you feel closed or open? And if you feel closed, make a conscious choice. I'm gonna be open to stuff. If the universe wants to bring me something good, cool. I'm down. Yeah, I'm up for that. That shift alone, I've seen huge results in my clients where they didn't even do anything. I remember I had this client who wanted to make new friends and was really, New York is not an easy place to make friends because it's New York and it's big herds of people. And this guy worked in a really big office where people didn't really talk to each other very much in the hallways or in the elevators. People were busy and kind of quiet. And we did this exercise where he just made a conscious choice to be more open. Like, hey, if awesome friends want to find him, cool, he's down. But that was our thing for the week. He wasn't going to like talk to 5 new people. He himself wasn't taking action. His only task was try to be more open, right? So simply like if someone is going to come at me, I'm going to be open and I'm going to be happy about that. All he did, the next week he comes in and he had a new good guy friend and they had already hung out. They had like played some sports together. And he was like, it's crazy, just being open. He was in the elevator. He didn't do anything. He wasn't like, hi, he did nothing. He was just standing there. And he said, this guy just started talking to me. And like right away, we had all this stuff in common. We got in this conversation about some of our hobbies that we're into. And then they both played the same sport. And they're like, oh, I've been looking for someone to play that sport with. Hey, let's like get together. Next thing you know, like in a week, he has like a good guy friend that just like came out of nowhere. And that was just from being more open. So that's something that you can do regardless of your blocks, internal or external, which we all have. So whether you're really busy or you're sick or you have fears and you're afraid and whatever your thing is, just consciously decide, I'm going to choose that if something great is going to come to me, I'm just going to let it in. I'm going to be okay with that. I'm not going to push it away. That is an amazing, powerful thing you can do right away. And then from there, the journal is also great for not only writing down your fears and changing your negative thoughts into your positive thoughts, but it's also great for writing down exactly what you want. So you want to get clear on what you want right now, what you want long term, and be as specific as you can. And you can write affirmations and visualizations on this. And you can also create a vision board, or if you don't want a vision board, you can do this in any way. All a vision board is there for is basically just to remind you of your dream quickly. So that's a collage of images, but you can do that in other ways. You can have objects that to you are beautiful or that represent what you want to bring into your life. So maybe you have a pretty little statue of a couple and you keep that out somewhere that you can see it, or a beautiful painting of, it could be a couple, it could be anything really that gives you that feeling of like, yeah, that's what I want. That's like, oh, this would be so great to be in this relationship. This is like my perfect relationship. I would just be so happy with this kind of a person in my life, and I would do this for them and they would do that for me, and all of that kind of feeling. Anything that makes you feel good like that, you want to keep around. Like if you see my heart back there, I made that years ago, and that's one reason I made it, was I just wanted something like symbolically on my wall that reminded me just how important love is. Like, of course, there's like all kinds of love, romantic love, family, friends. I just wanted something to remind me of love on the wall, so I actually made that. So you can have art up as well if you don't want to have a vision board. You can also simply write it down in words. And you can describe the kind of life that you want with this person and get into that detail, like maybe you wake up early and make them breakfast in bed, and you have like the eggs just perfect, and you have their favorite juice and they're like so happy about that. Maybe they make you breakfast in bed. Maybe they cook you dinner, or maybe you go out and you see a show together, or you go to your favorite band and you go see their concert and you see that together and you're dancing, or whatever it is. Those mental images are so powerful. Maybe you're in like a swanky martini bar and you're everything's velvet and you're drinking your cocktails together. Maybe you're going to see a baseball game and you're both huge fans of this team, or whatever it is. Really get those images vividly in your mind. And whether you record those images in a vision board and you have little pictures of like, oh, the Mets, or whether you have a written description, or if you want to even, you can make an audio description. You can just make a voice message on your phone, listen to that when you fall asleep at night or when you get up in the morning, or both if you want it to be doubly effective. Just a 5-minute voice recording, 1 minute, whatever it is. So these are some things that you can do right now. I mean, the more you do, the better. But if nothing else, I would say do the openness exercise. And I'll go through it with you a little more in depth right now. That's all I'm going to say about these topics, but I'll take you through a little more of an in-depth openness thing right now. Okay. So first, just take a few deep breaths, because this stuff is heavy. Whenever I talk about relationships, you're going to feel some good stuff, but you're going to feel some bad stuff too. So try to just be okay with that. Let it be there. But sort of just exhale. Take a few breaths in and out. Close your eyes. Don't worry, I'm not going to stare at you when your eyes are closed. Okay, maybe I will. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So take a few deep breaths and try to let that stress let the stress out. Don't beat yourself up if you're saying, oh no, I didn't do this perfectly, oh my God, let that go. You don't need to do it perfectly. No one does it perfectly because we're all human. And now I want you to think of what you actually want in this moment right now as far as love and relationships. What do you really want? What is it that you want? What would you be excited about? What would make you feel better today? Is it someone texting you? Is it going on a date? Is it having a phone conversation? Is it having someone you can trust and tell, how your day went, or someone to tell all your jokes to, or someone to make them laugh? Whatever it is, I want you to think about that and how good that would feel if you already had it. So let's say you already have it, right? And that's a good feeling. And that's like a relief too, right? Because like you don't have to look for this now. Oh, you found it. Oh, finally. Okay, so you got this great relationship and it's exactly what you've wanted, and it's just such a relief, and it just fits you perfectly to the point that it just works. And you're just like, I can't believe this happened. This is crazy. I didn't think this was going to happen this fast. I thought it was maybe impossible. And here it is. Bam. So, what I want you to do now is think of that awesome energy of what I just described and just feel open to it. Like, feel like your guard is dropping and feel like, yeah, I can let that in. That person, if they want to come into my life, I'm going to let them in. I'm going to let that energy in, which isn't to say you're not going to protect yourself or you're not going to look for flags. Yes, you're going to protect yourself too because you're an adult. You've got a brain. But emotionally, you're going to open yourself up to that energy because they're there. They want the same thing you do because they're the right person for you. And all you have to do is be open. So feel that energy of openness, that it's coming to you already. And you don't necessarily have to do anything. You just sort of have to be open. Another deep breath. And I hope that that made you smile. I hope that at least for a second you just got that feeling of like, ooh, yeah, that would be so cool. And whatever you pictured is important. I really recommend writing down anything that you pictured. Maybe you saw yourself walking your dog with your significant other, or maybe you saw yourself traveling and you're lying on a beach somewhere, or maybe you saw that they're just there for you after a hard day and they give you a hug and they cheer you up, or vice versa. So, whatever it was, write that down. And that's the main thing you can do immediately to change this, whatever cycle you're stuck in. Just the openness works so well. But I mean, remember everything else I said, you can do the logical perspective as well, as far as your, dealing with any therapy issues, dealing with any fears, learning your attachment style, which is in my other video that's super helpful to understand. Maybe you're pushing people away too much, maybe you're being too clingy. That will let you know. You can watch my other video on that and understand what's up with that and how you can change it. And of course, any blocks that you have, trying to get an ex back, or if there's something else you have to take care of. These are all things you can work on. You can just do a few minutes a day of any of these things. And I hope that that brings you your love. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. If you want coaching on relationships, love, even getting more friends, or any topic, really, I do business, entrepreneur coaching, career coaching, and relationship coaching. You can go to my website, yourdreamslifecoach.com, fill out the contact form. Definitely include your email address because that's how I will respond to you, and I will email you my rates and how it all works. And just give me a brief description of who you are, what your situation is, so that I know right away if my coaching is going to fit you, or if it's not. I will let you know, like, oh, this is more of a career counseling issue, this is a consulting issue, this is a therapy thing. I'll let you know if it's not really a match. And then from there, look at my info, and then you decide if it's a match for you, and then we will go from there. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. I hope that that was helpful. Have a good day.